Hello, Claudia. I was able to see you, so I think everything is fine.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and everywhere. I hope you can hear and see me. Thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Clarissa, and I am representing the Research in Germany initiative executed by the German Academic Exchange Service and funded by the Federal Ministry of Research, Technology and Space. And I will be today's moderator. My colleague Inji Nafi will be with me and assist me throughout this session. We are very excited and so grateful for everyone being part of today's session. Today we are already hosting the 5th episode of our event series Meet Your Future You. And our research shows that one of the most effective ways to share information is through individuals who have already navigated this journey themselves and can provide first-hand insights into both the advantages and challenges from an international perspective. Today, we will focus on Germany's capital, Berlin, and two established researchers will share their insights from their work and life in Germany's biggest city. And this format will continue to evolve based on your preferences. And we plan to organize more topic and region-focused online events like this. Therefore, your feedback at the end of today's session will be highly valuable. We are very fortunate to have two experienced scholars who have successfully established themselves in Germany today with us. But before we get to meet them and to ensure a smooth and interactive session, I'd like to quickly familiarize you with the key features of Microsoft Teams webinars. So here's a brief overview. Yeah. If you have questions during the presentation, please do not use the raise hand feature. Please only use this feature at the end during our Q&A session. And most importantly, for questions that you would like to address during the Q&A session, please use the Q&A box only. It's indicated on the picture. The chat box is used to be for technical issues, and you can use reactions at any time, of course. As mentioned and agreed upon during the registration process, we are recording the event. The recording will be accessible on our website to all participants after the session. So once again, thank you for your participation, and I'm very much looking forward to an interesting session. The time is short, so let's make the best of it. We will begin with our two main presentations by Dr. Ana Alonso Serrano and Dr. Claudia Seldin. After that, there will be time for your questions. And as always, we will finish the session with a little survey. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Ana Alonso Serrano. Ana came to Germany with an Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship to work in the Max Planck Institute for Gravitational Physics, extending her stay there with a couple of postdoctoral contracts. And last year, she joined the Humboldt University of Berlin, thanks to a DFG grant to pursue her project. Anna, we are looking forward to your presentation, and the stage is yours.
Okay, thanks for inviting me and organizing this nice event. So let me share the screen.
Yes.
I think it's this one. Is it shared?
Yeah, perfect. We can see it.
And if I move, you see it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so thanks for the introduction. So as you mentioned, I moved to Germany, but before Germany, I'm originally from Spain, particularly from Madrid, and I did the PhD there. And then when it was the time of my postdoc, I moved first to New Zealand with a short-term postdoc there. Then I moved to Prague with another postdoc, and then I applied to Germany, and I decided to choose Germany for several reasons. It was a city and a country that I always thought that it could be nice to live for a while, and also because of the great atmosphere. So, for example, one opportunity that Germany gave to me is being in the Central Europe allows you to have a lot of visitors and interaction. For example, when I was in New Zealand, it was an amazing place, amazing university, but you don't have the opportunity to talk to so many people, to have so many visitors around. And this is something that Germany has a lot, and I appreciate it really a lot. So then I moved to Germany, and my life in Berlin is quite nice. I have discovered new hobbies and beautiful landscapes and very welcome city, because it's a very open-minded city where a lot of foreign people, where it's quite easy to move around using English. Not always, and not at your work. So here I didn't put the photos when I moved with all the bureaucratic craziness and language studies. So this is something that you, talking with people around you, always struggle the few months, so you really need to save time to adapt yourself. But I have discovered a very nice place to live. That was the reason I stayed. So as Clarissa introduced it, I first applied with the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation to move to the Max Planck Institute that you see here in the left side photo. So I applied from abroad there. The process was the standard one in Germany, so 6-9 months to make a decision, but then it was everything very smooth. Also, the institutions here have a nice international office to help you with settling the bank account, the phone, all the visa you need. That is always the first thing that you struggle. So also making connections around the institute, I was offered a new postdoc for almost 3 years. So I had the nice opportunity to stay there in the Max Planck Institute. And then when I finished there, I really decided that I could take more of the city and the country. So then I applied to DFG. And DFG has a lot of different programs adapted to the stage of your career and your country of origin. And I found that something that was relevant for me at that stage was something that is called Eigenstelle. That means that you apply for your own project, and then you have your own project for 2-3 years. You can apply again, and then you also can apply for more tenured professorship. So there are like these different formats, and then I joined this nice team in the Humboldt University. And I'm also like very happy in the sense that I can set my own goals and my own project thanks to this DFG, what makes also very interesting research paths that you don't need to, you can decide what you want to do. That I find very interesting. So it's not only about pure research skills, it's also like a lot of other things that Germany offers around the scientific community. So for example, I belong to 2 big projects. One is called Soapbox Science, and it's a audit project to bring science to the street and also create a network of scientists. That is something that Germany offers a lot of different networks of scientists and communities where you can share, where you can also, they offer workshops to learn new skills, to find your career path, and I found really, really useful. I didn't write it here, but also belonging to several mentorship projects. That is also something very particular of Germany. Now I'm in a mentorship project in the Humboldt University. So then the young students here, they can reach some more advanced researchers, but not at the level of professors that are not belonging to their groups, and then they can share some questions, doubts, and career perspectives. And then we have some meetings and workshops, and I find this very interesting. And then I also had the opportunity to start a big project with the help of the Max Planck Society that is called Authenticide. That is a platform that we have created to fight against misinformation and check the fake news in scientific communication. And they really supported our idea, gave us the opportunity to develop this project. So I'm very happy also with all these side opportunities in science that are offered here. So let me finish because I didn't tell you what I do. I am physicist, as I said. I do mainly the introduction of quantum effects into gravity. So it's a purely theoretical work. So I write here in the interface of general relativity and quantum mechanics. There is a strong tradition of this field in Germany, but my approach is quite different than the one followed here. So that was something that when I was thinking to choose Germany, I was questioning myself, but I was really happy that people here were very open to accept people with different perspectives and different fields, subfields. So this is something I always say, that sometimes we see the description of a group and we see that they are doing a specific techniques and we think that we are not going to belong there, but we always can propose new directions, and usually people are open to new paths. So this in general is the reason of why Germany. And then if you have the part of any tips, I think like if you have more specific questions, I would be happy to reply. But in general, one of my tips is like, as I said, like, I think Germany is a great opportunity. Put some effort into the language and save maybe the 3 first months just to be full-time, setting your life here, because it's going to be important after your time at work. Some other tip I would say is like, take the opportunities when they appear for workshops, for networking, for meetings. So not thinking in a practical way like, oh, shall I do this because of my short-term goals, and think more about develop the whole field and not think it's only about certain goals, because otherwise you don't take these opportunities, and in the long term they can be very relevant. In my case, they were, for example. So yeah, this is what I wanted to say mainly. So I don't know if we take the questions now or first the other talk, and then we do the questions, isn't it?
We are going to respond, ask questions to you later on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
thank you so much, Anna. I think we're all thrilled to be able asking you questions later on. We are jumping immediately to our next speaker. I'm going to introduce Dr. Claudia Seldin to you. She is currently a researcher and lecturer at the Center for Metropolitan Studies of the Technische Universität Berlin, where she was a Humboldt and CAPES postdoctoral fellow before. And her research and teaching interests include city marketing and branding, urban resistance movements, decolonial theory, and the impacts of digitalization on urban policy and real estate narratives. Claudia, we are very much looking forward to your insights, so please take it from here.
Thank you very much. Can you see my full screen presentation? And because I had a lot of problems to log in, so please let me know if you can.
It works perfectly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you, Clarissa. Thank you to the DAD for inviting me in the portal Research in Germany. It's a pleasure to be here again. As Clarissa mentioned, my name is Claudia. I am from Brazil, and I am in the field of urban studies, urban planning, and history at the TU Berlin. I'm also part of the Brazilian network for researchers in Germany called APOENA. And my idea today was to tell you a little bit about my trajectory here in Germany, which has been a long one. And to tell you a little bit about tips of how to enjoy Berlin and why I have chosen Berlin as a city for me. So the first thing that I would like to share with you is that my move to Berlin was actually a slow one. So I first came here when I was a master's student in 2007, and I actually had a DAD fellowship. Then I came back in 2013 for a split doctorate, so a research stay at the Bauhaus Universität Weimar. I went back to Brazil, then I came back for a postdoc at my current institution, the Center for Metropolitan Studies, and eventually I got a job here as a lecturer and researcher. And throughout this time, I had different fellowships, different funding from both my country and Germany. And I actually think that that was a very good idea and a very good experience. And I would advise you all, if you're planning to come to Germany, to take advantage of these shorter research fellowships, because they can be quite helpful. And the reason for that is that you get to know the country and the culture a little bit and see if you adapt. Living abroad, we know, is not for everybody, but Germany has a lot of positive things for a researcher, and you can experience it and see if it's for you. I also think it's very good if you have a temporary fellowship before you decide to make your final move, because you can understand how the German academic system works. It is a little bit different than other countries. And as my colleague previously said, it is also a good opportunity for you to discover how the research landscape works and build your own professional network, get to know professors, get to know other researchers, and plan for a future stay if you decide to make your final move. It's very important to get to know potential hosts, because your career in Germany will basically be built with third-party funding from different institutions. And you need people to host you, you need people to collaborate with. So it's a very good idea. I think that our audience here is mostly made up of early career researchers, and what I would advise you to do is to look for the appropriate funding for your level. So the best options are in master's programs. You can get partial or full scholarships, the same thing for PhDs. And there are also short-term, month-long fellowships that allow you to come visit or come participate in an event. And if you want to find out more about that, you can check out the Research in Germany portal or the DAD, and you will be able to locate the different types of opportunities that are available for your level and in your discipline. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my choice for Berlin and Germany, and I have some reasons that are more professional reasons. So basically, I do research about the intersection between cultural movements and urban development, and Berlin is a very cultural city. I also study gentrification, social resistance movements, and it was a bit obvious for me to come to Berlin because it's a city that has been historically very political. There are a lot of cultural facilities, so it was topic dependent, my choice to move here. But of course, if I compare this to my country of Brazil, relatively speaking, the research infrastructure is really good, both in terms of quantity and quality. So in Berlin, I am part of the Berlin University Alliance with my institution. The Berlin University Alliance is an alliance of the institutions of excellency here in Berlin. So you have the Humboldt-Universität, the Freie Universität, the TU, the Technical University, and the Charité, which is a hospital. And there is a lot of cooperation between these four institutions. You also have several other universities, private institutions for research, technical universities, and they can all host foreign students and PhD candidates and researchers. You also have a very extensive infrastructure of libraries, archives, and I also teach for history, so archives are very important. It's a really great number with lots of qualities, and it can really help you to do research. I think that the other thing that is very important is the fact that you can, in Berlin, actually work in English up until a certain point. And of course, this depends a little bit on the discipline. The hard science disciplines are usually a bit easier to carry out speaking in English, but basically you can take your time and learn German. And the other thing that I really like is the fact that I can actually teach courses about the research that I do. So this is something that I couldn't do in Brazil. Here in Berlin, I teach at 2 different master's programs, and I have the opportunity to talk about what I do and not being told what to teach, which is quite liberating and amazing. Of course, I also have some personal issues for moving to Berlin, and those are actually just as important, if not more important. The first one would be the quality of life. So I come from Rio de Janeiro, which is a city with a lot of problems regarding urban violence. And I actually feel quite safe in Berlin as a woman. I go out at night alone. I come back home. It's wonderful. There is very good public transportation. The city is very well connected. I feel very independent here, and this is something that I didn't have in my country and that I really appreciate. As I mentioned before, it's a city with a very vibrant cultural life. There's never a lack of things to do if I'm alone or if I'm with people. And the people aspect of this, again, as my colleague mentioned before, Berlin has been known historically to be a cosmopolitan city. It's a city of international people. It's a city of migrants. And you can get to know other expats and foreigners here quite easily. You can also connect with your own community. So as I mentioned before, I'm part of a network of Brazilian scientists. And this is something that exists for some countries or that you can build it yourself. And this is very good for your CV and for your networking practices. Lastly, I want to show some photos because these things that I mentioned, they are mostly related to Germany, broadly speaking, but life in Berlin itself can actually be quite interesting. And the reasons for that are, compared to other European capitals and even other German cities like Munich or Hamburg, life in Berlin is much cheaper. It's getting more expensive. You might see that on the news, but it's still a lot cheaper than other European capitals like London, Paris. I've talked about the transport system before, but I would just like to highlight that Berlin is a very bike-friendly and pedestrian-friendly city. I used to have to drive a car in Rio. I haven't driven a car in 6 years. I love it because I hate driving. So it's very easy to get anywhere. Where I live, I can reach any place in the city within 30 minutes. For those of you who like nature, Berlin is also known as the greenest city in Europe. It has a lot of parks, a lot of open spaces, a lot of lakes, and the population is surprisingly physically active. So if you are into that, it's definitely the city for you. And as I mentioned before, regarding the cultural life, Berlin has an international image of being an extremely cool city with subcultural activities, spaces that are a little bit different, a little bit greedy, seedy, authentic, a lot of restaurants, cafes, and as I mentioned before, also a lot of political engagement. So because I am in the field of urban studies, I thought that maybe I would show you some images of places that I think are quite interesting and that you should definitely visit when you're here. I'll be short because I know I'm probably running out of time. But I will just point out, Berlin is a city that was divided by a wall with 2 political economic systems, and you can still see pieces of the Berlin Wall today. You can still feel this division in the city, and it's quite interesting. You have a lot of places in the city with exhibitions of the wall, like the Issai Gallery with art on it. You have pieces of the wall on Potsdamer Platz. And it's quite interesting to see how this division endures in the city and what effects it has on urban space. You have places like the former airport in East Berlin, the Tempelhofer Feld, which has been occupied by several community activities like community gardens. It's just a big empty space with an old airport that is quite different than anything you've ever seen in cities, and people occupy this place in different ways. So it can be quite the experience to walk on where the airplanes used to be. And also, I think this was featured in the previous speaker's slide. So you have a place called Teufelsberg, which is a mountain that is artificial and was the site of a supposed former Nazi technology college, which has been abandoned and turned into a huge graffiti museum where you can visit as a tourist. You can sometimes talk to the artists. And overall, we have a lot of cultural festivals that take place in different times in the city. You have festivals of light. You have the Carnival of the Cultures with parades from different countries. And you have places where there are very improvised and spontaneous cultural activities like the Mauer Park, where you have a flea market and a karaoke where people just show up and kind of perform for you. So it's quite interesting. Very last thing, of course, challenges that need to be talked about: cultural adaptation, the German language, which is hard, but we need to learn it. There is a bit of a problem finding a place to live in Berlin. Apartments are hard to come by, but everybody gets one. So I advise you to keep at it if you're trying to come here, but having a little bit of a difficult time. We have a lot of bureaucracy in Germany. There's no way around it. And it is a country where it's better to come, as I mentioned, with a temporary contract first, because it's kind of hard nowadays to find a permanent position. But again, people do find it. So I would advise you to take the chance if you really want to. And I think that's it. I'm probably running out of time. If you want to connect with me, here are my contact information, and I look forward to taking your questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Claudia, for your insightful presentation. We really appreciated the way you guided us not only through your work, but also gave us a vivid impression of what it's like to live in Berlin. Yeah, we come to the next part. Anna, thanks a lot to you as well. We feel honored having you answering the audience's questions today. And for those who have questions to either Anna or Claudia, this is your time. So you can keep typing your questions into the dedicated Q&A box, or if it's not working for you, you can also use the chat box. And I would suggest that we start with our first question. Inji, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, gladly. Again, from my side, thank you very much for these beautiful insights and information. I'm just trying to highlight all of us so that everyone can see us perfectly. Yes, maybe to start, because I see the questions are coming in the Q&A box, but as a start, you both talked about bureaucracy and that it is a little bit of a challenge in Germany. Do you both recall what was like one of the challenges that you faced when it comes to bureaucracy? It's something that the audience who are planning or want to come to Berlin and to Germany would need to keep in mind and think about it. We'd like to keep it real and for everyone to know what are the challenges and what comes next. So yeah, maybe there are specific things that popped into your head. So yes, let us know.
I can take that. I think that there are a few things to take into consideration. The first one is that if you come from a country like mine, when everything is very informal, you tend to see the description of documents that you need, and you might forget one and think that that's okay and that you will get by with that. And this is something that doesn't happen in Germany. You have to follow exactly what is required of you. You have to be on time. And this is especially important if you have visa appointments, if you have appointments to register in the city. If you arrive 3 minutes late, you might lose your position. So you actually have to follow the rules. The rules are strict. So I would be specifically careful when it comes to visa. procedures. And I will also say that sometimes contracts here take a bit longer than usual. So you should program yourself, always have a plan B, and be prepared in case processes take longer than you imagine.
Okay.
Yes, very, very insightful. Anna, do you have like one recollection of?
No, I have exactly the same. Like, do not think that there are processes that you can do on a stage when you arrive. Usually you have to apply for appointments for almost everything with time. And also one other thing that I was not used from my home country or other countries is that a lot of things are solved by letters. So you need an address because even nowadays it's not online. You need to receive a letter, so you have to give an address, or it takes time to receive it. So really start in advance.
Yes, I think Claudia mentioned the apartment search is sometimes a challenge. Sometimes people need to be prepared for, and it's like everything follows. Then you need an address in order to get an appointment, in order to go and register, in order to get your residency permit. So it's
But also for the apartment, sorry, with one quick thing. Something I found is that a lot of universities are research center. If you ask, they have guest houses or student dormitories that you can stay for the first months to help you to, because sometimes it's not easy to look for an apartment when you're far away because you can be scammed. So it's something I do not recommend. It's better to do it here on a spot. So it's better to ask the university, do you have an option for me for the 3 first months? And then from here, have these 3 months, as I said, just for bureaucratic and adaptation issues.
Yeah,
that's a very important remark. Yes, for sure. Like always checking with the international offices or welcome centers. They sometimes have really good advice when it comes to these bureaucratical challenges that are known in many cities and in Germany in particular. Yes, I think that was like one of the main questions, and I'm looking at the so please feel free also to write your questions in the Q&A box, and maybe
there is one dominating question, I believe, in the chat box regarding language, and I think you both mentioned the language aspect frequently. So maybe you could both elaborate a bit on that. There is someone who's asking if you choose to study a postgraduate degree in English, if there is everything in English, or if there's also going to be parts in German. And if you feel like it's really important in order to survive in Germany to be able to speak German.
Mm-hmm. I can start answering that, and then Anna maybe can follow. I think, again, a few different things to take into consideration. There are some programs and some degrees that are taught in English. You need to make sure to do your research beforehand. There are some programs that are taught only in German. It depends on the level, it depends on the institution. If the program is in English, of course, that makes, if you don't speak German, that makes life a lot easier. But if you intend to stay here longer, English is okay for very basic things like going to a restaurant and things like that. But there are small things in day-to-day life that you will need German to be able to deal with that yourself. If you have a problem in your home, if you need to talk to your landlord, if you have a problem with the bank, if you have an emergency, you cannot expect everybody here to speak English. So it makes life a lot harder if you don't speak German. So what I would advise, it's a language that takes time to learn. It's fine to make mistakes. I would advise someone who is intending to stay here longer to take the effort, spend the money because it's an investment, and try to learn the language because it's necessary. It's necessary to be able to communicate in the country where you live. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's important to mention those things. Academic life is one part of the of the site, but private life and even like managing the daily routine in Berlin is very important as well, as you mentioned. Anna, do you agree to that, or what would you say?
I completely agree. It's like, for me, a basic example, the paradoxical is like if you go to the tickets machine in the Deutsche Bahn, You can select your language and order the ticket in whatever language. But if there is some problem with the ticket, nobody's going to solve to you in other language than German. So you can survive if you have no problems, and you can, managing, but you really need it. And also following what Claudia said, my experience with the German, also the Germans can tell me if I'm right, is that learning other languages, you have the feeling that you are shy because you have to speak it perfectly for the locals and native speakers to understand it. But German speakers are so flexible with the language that even messing up completely the declination, the gender, the sentence, they follow you. So it's fine if you start trying to speak, because they are going to do their best, really their best, to understand you. It's something that I was very impressed when I moved here.
And it's very unique, or especially for Berlin, because Berlin is very international, so it feels almost like no one is speaking in their mother tongue, almost. So I think this is a very unique quality, especially in Berlin, compared to other cities. So we have to highlight that. In other cities, things can be very different. German is for sure more needed in the daily community, but because Berlin is very diverse and very international, this is one major point. And speaking of diversity, because I found also an interesting question that was highlighting that, is it easy to find like ethnic groups or people from your country that you can connect with? Sorry, how has been your experience when it comes to that?
Yes. I think it is quite easy. As I mentioned before, because there are so many international people living in Berlin, you will find your community. I think that at first it's easier for foreigners here to connect with other foreigners. You will find your community from your country, from your ethnicity background, from your religious group, because there's so much diversity here, you will find it. But it's also important to try to connect with the locals and with Germans. And there is a whole thing here about how it's a little bit harder to connect with Germans, but it's possible. I think that if you make the effort, you will see that it's doable. It's just that you really need to know the person. So it's good for you to also try not to stay in your comfortable, safe zone, and to try to reach out to other people and people who are different than you. I think that makes for the experience a lot more enjoyable and easier. But you will definitely find your ethnic, religious, cultural group here.
Yeah, and it's not so complicated in the sense that there are like so many, as I mentioned, networks and different nets offer, like not only about your particular origin, but also like if you like programming or gaming, like you can always find a group of people organizing a joint activity for what you want. And I think this is a good first step, like to find also local people, because of, okay, I have this hobby in common, how do I go to the street and start with this hobby? No, there is already almost in everything like some groups. For example, I climb, and I would have been very shy to go climbing alone the first time, but there is always people posting like meet up for climbing all together, and then you can join, and then you are going to find people there. And it's something that I think is very particular of Berlin, and I really do like, because it simplifies to adapt to a new city.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's really helpful. And I mean, social media nowadays is used for so many purposes. And I think it's also important to put that in mind when looking for friends or people to hang out with. Especially in Germany, the culture might be or could be cold in the beginning, but this is just the beginning, I would say. There are a couple of questions regarding permanent positions. It doesn't have to be in academics, but also jobs in general. If you're a postdoc person, what would you recommend if you're looking for a job and you're an English speaker? Do you have any recommendations for platforms or something to share from your own experience?
Yes, again, you can look at the Research in Germany portal. I know it sounds like I'm just saying that because they are organizing this, but the thing is that both
We
the
didn't tell her.
Yeah, and the Research in Germany, you can look for positions based on which country you're coming from, based on your level and your discipline. So they already have the information there. Also, it's actually relatively easy, or I mean, there are positions in the postdoc level for several different disciplines here. I would advise you to try and get a fellowship because that's easier. A scholarship, a fellowship, it's easier if you have this sponsoring to enter the country and get a visa than it is if you just come here and look for a job. And you will find the appropriate fellowship for you at the Research in Germany portal or the DAD, which has just been posted here in a chat by Yinvi.
Yeah, Anna, do you have something to add or?
Just because the question also, I guess it contemplated positions not in academia, permanent positions or stay in Germany. And I think that's quite easy compared to any other country, at least in Europe, because I have the feeling that they are like the companies that more in tech directions are really putting an effort in taking in institutions, or for example, doing a small fair and show the company, or in supporting startups. So I think in the regard of non-academic, not permanent, but in non-limited and limited positions, I think it's quite easy, and it's something that it comes naturally because you see it around like without this search.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Maybe Clarissa, if I may add,
yeah, sure.
it's of course important to keep in mind that there are we heard like at working at university where you can have a working contract in order to pursue or finance your stay. There are different funding organizations like Alexander von Humboldt that was also mentioned there, where you can find fellowships. It's very competitive, of course, but at the same time, it can finance a specific stay. And also keeping in mind that the industry plays a big role when it comes to research. Like I think about 60% of the research and development funding is the funding is going to R&D. So also keep that in mind and check the different opening positions when it comes to that. So there are universities, research institutions, and also at companies.
Yeah, and I think that's the specialty of Germany, which is worth highlighting, that we really have those non-university research institutes as well. There were questions regarding postdoc positions and funding. On our website, which Indy kindly posted in the chat, we have an overview of all the career stages, and we filtered them regarding your career stage. So I really recommend you to have a look onto our website, and then you can choose which position you're in right now, and then look for funding opportunities there. Also, all the very specific questions regarding your own discipline, we cannot answer each and every individual question, so we rather focus on the general ones.
Clarissa, if I may add something
Yeah.
to funding, because maybe it's a sneak peek. We're planning in October an online event where we're going to speak specifically on funding opportunities. So maybe if you just follow us on the different networks, you can get an in-depth session, especially when it comes to funding. So maybe stay tuned. It's in October.
Exactly. Let us check for more questions. You are still able to type in your questions. We still have a few more minutes.
Maybe I can add something, Clarissa, while we're waiting for a question, is that one of the reasons to look at these websites is because the availability of positions and fellowships specifically may depend on your country of region and specific arrangements between Germany and your country. So, for instance, being from Brazil, there is a specific cooperation agreement between my government and Germany. So there is a specific modality of the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation that is just for Brazilians. There are some opportunities here that are for people who are just Europeans. So the reason to check this portal is because there could be more or less positions for you depending on where you were coming from. If you are already in Germany, how long you've been here. So it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Very
Thank you.
important point, yes.
Yeah.
If I may add, because I read that and you're both working at universities and have students, I think this one of the biggest questions is I'm writing to several professors, but I'm not getting a reply, and finding a supervisor. I think this is one of the big issues. So maybe you can share with us a little bit your experience and what would you advise people who are looking for a position or searching for a supervisor in this case.
Go ahead, Anna. I can talk.
Okay. Yeah, this is quite an issue, and I have been in that position. But I also have to say that I'm like quite junior for my university, and I do receive only for students wanting to apply like 2 emails per day or something like that, plus a lot. So it's difficult to keep track and reply. So also understand that some people are not replying, not because they don't like you, it's just because sometimes we are overwhelmed with applications for conferences, for talks, for students, like so many things that is so difficult to reply. So also my recommendation there is I try to reply whenever I see it. I know that I have missed some messages, is that write something that is not a general message. I mean, like, for example, I have found a message from a student like, I really like your research in quantum gravity. I do optics. And it's like, okay, you have not read, you are reaching everyone. So write something like, read the person that you are writing and say something that it's true, that something that you found, that you read, not a question that you have a template and you substitute the name. I know it's a lot of work, but it really makes a difference when you read it. And also attach all the documents, because this simplifies, like, because if I have an open call in the university and I see the message and I see that you have a real interest and that you have attached a CV, some letter, some cover letter, so then it's easier that I forward it to the people in the university taking care of these calls. But if you write something that is very general, you don't attach a CV, then I have to interact. Is this true interest? Then I have to ask you for a CV and everything. It delays a lot. So write something personal, read, write only to the people you have interest, and attach all the necessary documents in the first email.
I have just a couple of things to add to that. Please understand that only professors can receive and host people here. If you go through websites of institutions and you see someone that has just a doctor in the title of their name, they're not probably allowed to receive people. So you want to address professors who are the chair at their discipline at the institution. And also make sure to not write an extra long email or direct email. Direct communication is very important in German. Add a CV. Your CV should not be more than 2 pages long, and add a draft of your project, and that should not be more than 5 pages long. If you add a lot of very long documents, we won't read them. We don't have the time. So be smart about the documents that you send.
Thank you,
Efficiency
Claudia.
is key, like making it catchy, attractive, clear. Yes, and maybe staying in the topic, because someone was asking CV formatting guidelines are there, because I think that fits very well in this context. Claudia, do you have any recommendations a little bit?
There is no specific format, but one thing that I would recommend, again, 2 pages. Even if you have a lot of experience, you need to filter what is most important. And there are always differences in the academic system. So if there is something that you need to explain, for instance, in Brazil, in my program, we didn't get grades for our dissertations and theses. You need to add a very small observation to explain that you don't have a grade because the program doesn't allow the grade. So I think you need to make sure that the person who is receiving the CV will not have to do any extra work or research to understand your CV, because we won't do that. If I need to look something up, I will not do it. So I will favor the people who explain everything in their document. But at the same time, it needs to be short. So it's a challenge. You can probably look online and you will find a lot of templates and formats. It's not that hard. If you look for a European template.
I think that's a good hint. I mean, German culture is also known for maybe, yeah, we're rather strict when it comes to formatting and stuff like that, but that also doesn't mean at the same time that you have to obey to very specific templates. It's more that it has to be in order and everything has to be neat and well structured, and also not produce extra work for the professors. There was one more.
Clarissa, just one observation that I think is quite important. Nowadays, it makes quite a difference if you add the amount of money that you have been able to make or get from cooperations, the money you have from awards and fellowships. People nowadays add that to the CV, because if you prove that you are good at getting money for the institution, that gets you positions easier. So that's a tip for you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's a good point as well. There is one more question adding to that. So one person was asking, how hard is it to get a job funding of other options after getting a postgraduate degree, like a master or PhD outside the academic institutions?
Sorry, I didn't get it. Can you repeat it?
The person was asking how hard it is to get a job and funding or other options after having after being a postgraduate, like a master or PhD from outside the academic institutions.
I can actually get that as well. It is easy depending on the discipline. There are more options in the tech sector, computer science, bio. You have a lot of private institutions in the industry here where you could get a job. It may be slightly more difficult in the social sciences, the humanities, but you will still get jobs in those sectors. But then for those, it would really be recommended that you speak German. Your knowledge of the language will play a role in how easy it is for you to get a job. Right? I think people in tech have an easier time getting a job if they only speak English. For other positions, you will probably need to speak German because you're competing with people who speak German. But so there are opportunities. I mean, the whole world is going through a crisis right now, so it's not easy nowadays to get a job as it was maybe last year, but there are opportunities. You just need to consider the field that you're in.
Maybe to add, or Anna, would you like to add something to that question? Because I would like to change this a bit. Perfect. To add on it, how hard also getting funding, because you both were able to receive funding and apply and go through the process. How was the experience? Did it work from the very first time, or did you fail and then something worked out? Maybe you can share a little bit your experience when it comes to that.
Well, for me, I've been very fortunate that it has worked out. But as I mentioned before, I did have funding also from the Brazilian government to come here. And it does make quite a difference if you come here, if you meet people, if you show how good your work is. And then when you're trying to come back, you have Germany in your CV, you have names of people in Germany in your CV. That opens a lot of doors. I think that I've seen all kinds of experiences. Of course, nobody gets everything, so it's quite normal for us to get rejected. Also, in the process, you should not let that discourage you from applying. But if you're getting a lot of rejections, then I think it's good to do your research as to what maybe you're getting wrong, because again, there is a little bit of a formula as to how to prepare your documents, how to approach people. So if you feel that you're stuck and you're not getting anywhere, it's probably a good idea for you to talk to a consultant or talk to someone in Germany so they can give you some tips about how to get funding. And again, as Anna said before, do not apply for things or talk to professors and researchers that are a little bit far away from your area of expertise, because it doesn't make sense. People are not going to accept you if you're applying for something that is actually different than what you do. So don't waste your time. Be smart about how you apply, also to avoid a bit of psychological stress, because if you get a lot of rejections, that does get to you. So be strategic, I would say.
Yeah, thank you. Something to add, Anna?
Also because of the DFG, because that was more towards research funding or project funding.
What, sorry, I think my connection is not going very well because I'm having problems the last few minutes to follow the...
Oh, sorry. No, I'm just asking because you had also project funding from the DFG, if it was similar to Claudia's, or was it different kind of challenges?
I mean, it's different in some sense. Like for me, like most of the German positions I have applied here, something I like, and it's in the direction that Claudia said, is like they take interviews. So at least in other countries, it's not so common. It's just a straight value of your CV. So it's something I really like, but it's also something that takes the effort, as also Claudia mentioned, to come here, to learn a bit the language, to be into the system, to show how good you are, because they are not going to, okay, in the CV has good marks, so I'm going to take this person. No. I think it's a clever way here to do it, but it takes an effort. And in the terms of DFG, it's not exactly in that sense, but similar to Alexander von Humboldt, they have to accept you, and they have also a lot of proposals. So you have to give something interesting to complement the university or the group. And also, I do recommend, usually in those cases, to write it in cooperation with the host you are applying. So the first time that I applied for the Alexander von Humboldt, I asked the host, I had like a couple of meetings, and I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about this project. What do you think? It fits. So we really had a lot of conversation. I visited the institute. I gave a seminar there. So, and I think it really improved my project because I had like references to write, new things to add because of the local things that I saw that they were doing. And so it really makes a difference also in that sense to visit. Also like for a seminar or for a summer internship or whatever other version that allows you to contact and have some interaction.
Yeah, thank you very much. That added up to that as well. Thank you. Yeah, looking at the time, unfortunately, we have reached the end of the Q&A session. If you still have any unanswered questions, you can find Anna's and Claudia's contact details here and reach out to them directly, or for more general questions, you can reach out to us directly. Our contact details are indicated here. And feel free to take a picture, but we will also upload today's PowerPoint presentation on our website in the coming days. And for those who have like super urgent questions, maybe you can stay in the meeting later on, and maybe we can answer them after what we would like you to do now. Yeah, there will be more events like this in the future, and until then, there are other sources of informations like our Research in Germany homepage we just posted in the chat, and you can also scan it here. You can also subscribe to our newsletter and of course our social media channels, and you can find the QR codes here. And before we conclude, we would like to ask you to take a moment to fill out our survey so we can incorporate your feedback into future events. We would really appreciate that. You can just take a few seconds to do that. It's just 5 questions you can answer. And maybe while you're answering those questions, we can ask a last question. Maybe there was one question, which is another topic, which is also the focus of today's talk, actually, on the mentality as well of Germans and the life in Germany. So, Claudia, you were talking about the German Wall in Berlin, and if you can maybe elaborate a bit on how Germany and Berlin are connected. Is there a bright gap between Berlin and the other cities? Because now we were talking about Berlin, but how is life in other German cities? Because you were also in Weimar, or is Berlin a very specific city? How would you answer to that?
This is something that we joke a lot, not just the foreigners, but I think Germans as well, that Berlin is not Germany. Berlin is a little bit different, maybe because it is a city with so many international people that there is a vibe that is a little bit different. This whole thing that you can speak English mostly everywhere, even though not everybody will speak English, but it's relatively easy to get by. This is not the fact for the whole of Germany. There are quite a lot of differences between different states, different cities. Obviously, smaller cities will be a bit harder for you to get by if you're speaking only English. And they also look different. So, you know, the cities in the former East Berlin, they tend to have a different architecture. There is a different landscape. In Western Berlin, you will find the small cities with very cute, colorful, small houses and architecture. It's a big country for European standards, and therefore it's a diverse country. What I would again encourage you is if you have the chance to visit Germany prior to your stay here, you can also try to get to know some places and visit some cities to see what life is like. Obviously, smaller cities are a little bit more difficult to adapt if you come from a big city. But again, it's slightly subjective. I don't know if Anna has also an opinion on this. It's a very diverse country.
Yeah, I have only lived in Berlin, but thanks to the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, I was like traveling and also here around. And yeah, I really follow what you said also by Germans, like Berlin is not Germany. And it depends. Something that you said is completely true, that for me it was very easy to adapt to Berlin because my hometown is a big city. But I have a lot of friends that were really struggling in Berlin mainly because of that, of a big city where nobody knows you. So your neighbor is not talking to you. You have to commute for 40 minutes wherever you want to go. But I find that it's a good start if you don't come from Germany because of how international it is. And then maybe then you start deciding to move to some other smaller, more charming city that definitely there are a lot in Germany.
Yeah, thank you. I think that was a nice way to maybe end this session. And I can also add that I live in Cologne, which is also a rather big city, and it's also very welcoming. And I would also say that it's a melting pot of different cultures, and not only Berlin is an international place to live. Yeah, just as a motivation that there are other places like this as well. While you're filling out the survey, hopefully, which would be highly appreciative, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. And a special thank you, of course, to Anna and Claudia for your inspiring and insightful presentations. Your expertise and perspectives have made this event truly valuable. And to our audience, we appreciate your active participation and thoughtful questions. Your engagement is what makes these events so impactful. So thank you once again. And we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Stay tuned, and until then, have a great summer. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much and see you soon.
Yeah.